what's funny is like when I do ask entrepreneurs or my students, when are you ready to scale? They often say when you have product market fit. But to Tosh's commentary, when you ask 50 people what product market fit, and I've never had anyone whisper the same thing.
Hello and welcome to In Control, where we learn about the finance of everything. I'm Tash, your host, and I have been lucky enough to raise money from Stage 2 Capital, which was co-founded by Mark Roberge and Jay Poe. Mark was the founding chief revenue officer at HubSpot and took them from zero revenue all the way through to IPO. Stage 2 Capital is a unique fund in that it has more than 1,000 go-to-market experts as its limited partners or investors in their fund. I've personally benefited from that, having found a great mentor and friend in one of their LPs who also became an investor in Cable. With that background, it's not surprising that Mark's expertise is in demystifying and providing frameworks for generating revenue. Mark has recently published this here new book, The Science of Scaling, using data to decide when and how fast to scale revenue. The Science of Scaling is a fantastic playbook and guide for early stage founders. Mark breaks the earliest stages of company building down into 3 stages, each of which needs to be completed before moving on to the next. Those stages are product market fit, go-to-market fit, and thirdly, growth and moat. Within each stage, Mark provides a set of easily measurable metrics that enable you to track progress and measure success so that you know when to move on to the next stage. It really is the most data-driven and easy-to-measure way to understand your startup that I have come across. I really recommend that everyone trying to build a startup or work with a startup reads it. Today, I'm chatting with Mark to go deep into some of the themes that I pulled out of the book and to try to uncover some more of his great advice that perhaps couldn't fit into this book, but maybe it'll be in the next. Mark, thank you so much for chatting with me and for sending me a copy of your book. Something that I kept thinking about as I read it.
Wait, Tosh, that was a great intro. I have nothing else to say. That was the whole book right there. No, that was a wonderful. I'm having trouble describing the framework that succinctly. So thank you. I'm just going to bring you on all my podcasts. Thank you.
There you go. Here to help. I don't know if you remember, David Sachs released years ago now a blog post that had like a board deck pro forma in it, and it had a bunch of charts and graphs that he felt like every SaaS founder should use as their board deck. And I couldn't help but think, as I read this, that given board meetings, especially at the early stages, are like a little bit funny, like you're trying to achieve like some momentum, what are you really measuring? It felt really to me like you could produce a sample board deck from this book and release that, and that could become the new kind of stable for early stage founders. Have you thought about doing that?
Already done. Do a search in your favorite search engine or LLM, Mark Roberge, I think it's the ideal go-to-market slides for a board deck. And we've got it for you, Tosh.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's actually in the book at the end of each, as you've summarized, there's 4 parts. The first part is the overarching framework of like product market fit, go-to-market fit, growth and moat. How do you know which one you're in and how do you get to the next? Part 2 is building the go-to-market system for product market fit. Part 3 is building the go-to-market system for go-to-market fit. And part 4 is building the go-to-market system for growth and moat. At the end of each of those parts is the optimal board slides based on where you're at. And so just to like tease that out, Tosh, like a very common mistake, I always joke about this, is like, how many seed-funded board meetings do I go to? And the first slide is the income statement that shows me how much money they spent on copy paper and ink. And I'm like sitting there waiting. When is the slide going to come that shows me if people are using the product? Because that's all I care about right now. Like, are people using the product? Are we seeing value? Do we anticipate that this is going to renew and we have product market fit? And sometimes it never comes up. So like, that's just one example of like, we have a lot of growth, I think, in the ecosystem on sort of optimizing that meeting in those slides.
So true. And even like some of the best pre-seed and seed investors that I have been like, lucky enough to work with, Local Globe in the UK and Europe and Stage 2, of course, yourselves. Like, we're really still in need of this, like a really early stage board guidance, I guess, how to communicate clearly with investors at that stage. Everyone go Google that. That sounds that sounds like exactly what we need.
Can I do one more tip in there, Tosh, that I don't think is described enough? And like, this actually just happened today. I had a board meeting 4 hours ago. And the other board member, he's pretty direct. And like the CEO started to like talk, and he was like, can we just, I don't want to go through this deck. I don't want to spend the next 2 hours having a business overview. Like, can you just answer this question for me? You know, and like that we didn't even touch the slides. That's like we already read the slides.
Yeah.
You know, and like I think that if I can step back from that and when I'm coaching first-time founders on their board meeting, most of them are 90% the team talking and the board's just sitting there going like this, and that's terrible. It needs to be a committed pre-read. Ideally, the board deck is delivered at least 24 hours in advance. All attendees of the board meeting commit to reading it through. And the board meeting is 80% discussion, 20% presentation. So it kind of like starts off with, all right, as you know, we're going to start off with the CEO update. You all read it. Just as a reminder, in 90 seconds, this is what it says. We have 5 minutes to discuss. Cool. Now we're going to go to finance. As you recall, like you all read this, but Julie, our CFO, is going to go through it in 90 seconds. Now we have 10 minutes to discuss any question. That's a great board meeting. So
I don't know if Liz, who is my partner from Stage 2, has told you about our board meetings. Right. So I hate slides. Cannot pull them together with like any coherent
I'll buy you a Gamma subscription. Yep.
But I actually think that the point is that slides are this mask to avoid critical thinking, because you can't fit much on slides, and mostly people just want like 2 or 3 sentences and then a chart. And I actually think that most of the value of a board meeting is making firstly the CEO and the team really deeply think about the business, but then secondly to like bring the board members up to speed on that thinking before a conversation can even happen. So we actually at Cable produce it's probably 15 or 16 pages of written board material in a document.
Love it.
And it has lots of charts and graphs in there too. But actually, one of the first things we did after our A was we came up with a series of commitments, CEO commitments from my side and board commitments from their side.
I think I remember this. Yes, this is brilliant.
And I committed to always be honest, because surprisingly, that's not always the case. Always to share board materials 3 days in advance, and always listen to feedback, challenge, advice, and consider it when making my decisions. A few other things in there. And the board committed to always be honest with me, to always come to the meeting having read the information, and to never bring me any surprises. Anything that they wanted to bring up and talk in the board meeting, they should have already brought to me before. And so then I would share this long document. The board would all read it, comment on it, but then the actual agenda I prepared 1 day before the board meeting, having seen all the comments of all the board members based on what their comments were and what people were actually wanting to pull out of there. So we actually didn't ever go through any of the board document in the board meeting. We just talked about the things that were coming out of the comments based on that information I'd given them.
That's the best I've seen at that stage. I remember Liz bringing that up. She brought up at her offsite. She said, look at what Tosh did. So that's really cool. You have a future inventor if you ever wanted, Tosh, but that's really cool.
We are already way off track, which I love, because we're getting into like some of the really, really key things here. So what I wanted to start off talking about was your definition in the book of product market fit, and then trying to fit that to a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast, who are often bankers, people selling to bankers, which the businesses look a little bit different. The sales cycles look a little bit different. So to set the scene, you define product market fit as generating customer success consistently, which is measured through kind of long-term customer retention. But you acknowledge this is a lagging indicator, and so you've defined a leading indicator of retention, a way to get early warning signs, effectively, of the likelihood of achieving customer retention and therefore achieving product market fit. And you use this leading indicator of a percentage of customers achieve some event every specified time period. So maybe like 70% of customers process 5 or more transactions every week or something like that. And what I want to understand is a lot of the companies that sell to banks, their sales cycles are 6 to 12 months. Their implementation processes take 3 to 6 months. So you're now somewhere between 9 and 18 months long to get a customer actually active. And then if you're doing this well, like, we have been signing 2 to 3 year contracts with our customers. How would you bend your leading indicator of retention to that kind of business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to you framed it really well. I'm going to probably zoom way out for a second just to create a little scaffolding, because what the work of the book is attempting to answer, and it's based on, 12 years since leaving my full-time operating role at HubSpot and just working with dozens of startups every quarter as a board member, investor, et cetera, so that I benefit from the pattern recognition that comes with that journey, and a reflection on what led to the IPOs that I saw and what led to the many bankruptcies that I saw. And the output of that reflection was poor answers and strategies around 2 key questions, which is, when are we ready to scale revenue, whether it's through a sales team or an investment in marketing, and how fast? And that's really what we're trying to, create a riddle around here. And I just find the answers to be kindergarten level, more based on when we were able to raise money, or, when the fiscal year started, and they really should be rooted in an analysis of the capabilities of the company. And so are we ready to scale, and how fast? And that's really what the root is, that the work is rooted in. So what Tosh is asking about is the answers to when you're ready to scale is when you have product market fit and go to market fit. And we're going to really unbundle those. What's funny is when I do ask entrepreneurs or my students, when are you ready to scale? They often say when you have product market fit. But to Tosh's commentary, when you ask 50 people what product market fit, and I did this at an event last night, I actually had 3 people whisper in my ear what they think product market fit is. And I've done that at a lot of events, and I've never had anyone whisper the same thing. That's crazy. That we're throwing around this term product market fit, but there's no real agreement on what it is. Mm-hmm. And I would say most answers congregate around a revenue number, like $1 million in revenue, we have product market fit, or 20 customers, we have product market fit, or when I have 50 inbound leads a month, I have product market fit, like a demand. In my opinion, wrong. Because all of those things can exist. And when people say that to me, I'm like, okay, fine, you have 50 inbound leads, you have $1 million in revenue. What if half the people churn? Do you have product market fit? And they're like, no. Well, how will you know? What do you do? I'm like, well, I'll just build the product correctly for the inbound leads. Okay, and then how will you know when you have product market fit? Well, when they don't churn. Exactly. It's not about selling. There was even a post on LinkedIn last night that I got tagged on where the gentleman said product market fit is when the contract gets signed. I just don't think that's true.
I totally agree with you, and there's a great little anecdote in the book. You introduce all these funny characters, show up and throw up Ted or Big Logo Brian and Cut and Paste Carl. And in one of these interactions, which is I think taken from your Harvard Business School classroom, you have this exact conversation that you're talking about right now. And someone says, yes, it's 5 customers, 200K of ARR. But then someone else says, no, that's message market fit. I want to come back to this, but Mark, you yes. maybe have a future in politics, because you didn't answer my question at all.
I know, I'll get to it. And I do not want to be in politics. But okay, so I just have to root it that way, because I just want people to know when we're talking about product market fit, it's not about signed contract. It's not about revenue. Yes. And we can keep talking about that to prove it. It's about retention. But retention is a lagging indicator, as Tosh said.
Yes.
So we need to find a way to measure in the first, as early as possible, to root it in Tosh's question, as to whether this person is going to retain in the long term. That is easy when we're selling transactional SaaS, because I can see in the first month. But to Tosh's point, in a lot of this banking software, I'll get right to your answer here, Tosh. It takes 6 months just to get these banks set up, and maybe another 6 months to get them using it. So qualitatively, we're trying to quantify when they see value from the product. So the LIR, the lead indicator retention, transcends through 3 stages as you get good at this. The first stage, which is often skipped, but is not skipped in banking, is a setup LIR. Because it's just friggin' hard. Like security, that's all you need. Once it's set up and running, it's just running. Like that's it. You're done. So like that's where I would root this. If you're doing like a cable, if you're doing like a banking startup, or you're like, the first LIRs is like, did they get set up? Did they get set up in 6 months? Is it even running? Right. And then once I get good at that, I would graduate to an engagement LIR, which is like, okay, like, are they processing more than 1,000 transactions a week? And then some people are able to graduate to an outcome-based LIR. What would it be in banking? Costs go down, like compliance. Like what would it be?
Depends what sort of software, but yeah, it could be like, I don't know, number of loans given out using the software, or it could be.
Well, that would be an engagement one versus like maybe like loan, like time to loan. Time to loan went down by like, by 50%. That would be an outcome. It's very difficult on the outcomes. It's rare. Like in HubSpot, it was like leads go up. So for HubSpot, it's like the system is running. No, the engagement one is like they use 5 or more features every month. And then the outcome one is their leads go up by 2% every month, right? So like it's hard to get to the outcome because it's not always attributable. But to repeat it within all that framing, Tosh, is yes, I have done this with tractors in Brazil and pharmaceuticals in Japan, and I've done this with like massive. Even my wealth manager uses an LIR. He literally like read the book. He's like, oh my gosh, we've totally changed our sales process because we realized that clients who log into their online portal every month retain, and those that don't end up leaving for like doing it themselves or something. So now we do like they've changed their entire sales and onboarding process around the portal in wealth management.
Yep.
Right. So to your point, for these long things, you have to baby step from setup to engagement to outcomes.
And that's awesome and super helpful. The thing that makes me think about is like, okay, so if you're looking at a setup LIR as the first leading indicator of that retention,
yes.
All of these banks that you're signing, are they actually setting up the system and getting live? If a sales cycle is, 6 to 12 months and setup might be 3 to 6, inherently the kind of time to get to product market fit for these types of companies just will be longer.
Yes.
Does that mean then, with your VC hat on, that these sorts of companies need to raise different shaped rounds? Do they,
yes.
And should they be being like positively told by their investors to stay smaller for longer to make that money go further?
Probably. Like I don't want to over invest in go to market before I have confidence in this stuff. And it's, if we take some extremes here, SpaceX needed a lot of capital to get to product market fit. Mm-hmm. like you're putting satellites in space. How much did that take? Like 500 million? I mean, like how? So it's like so in some of these cases, and now if we step back from that, that's why you see like cybersecurity and some of the infrastructure, physical infrastructure startups. Mm-hmm. They just take a lot of capital before you can even get to that first customer to even see if you have product market fit. And that's why sometimes those plays are left to serial entrepreneurs with a track record that can attract that capital before there's really tangible proof points. Yeah. So yes, I would definitely not be hiring 20 salespeople before I have that over that. If it's going to take me 3 years, I mean, the only, like, if we play off the odds here, Tosh, it's a great question. I love this because I haven't been through this mental exercise. So let's take the extreme. We hire one salesperson during this initial journey, knowing now that salesperson's able to bring in like a customer a quarter that we can now play with. And so that's kind of cool. There's some velocity. It's good that we're not like burning a ton of money on go to market. We get to, not like ruin the entire market brand perception because like we might make some mistakes along the way. But it's bad because my learning velocity on a per customer basis is low. Versus if I extend that all, let's just hire 20 reps and go. Now we're adding 20 customers a quarter if they're performing in the same way. Well, now I'm burning a lot of money because I probably didn't get the product right out of the gate, and I run the risk of like do I really have that many design partners that are going to be tolerable to the bugs that might come up? And like now all of a sudden I'm complicating my engineering team with like just scale too, right? So like where's the right balance? It's probably 1 to 3 reps, maybe 2 to 3 reps. What are you feeling? You lived through it.
Well, it's interesting. I think the other interesting thing about selling to banks is it is so relationship based. And that's why I think it is very easy to confuse what you term as message market fit with product market fit in the banking space.
Sure.
Because if you are somebody that plays golf and all these bankers like, then might you be able to sell 10, 20 banks before you've gotten through that kind of setup LIR to your engagement LIR, I think. And so
yeah, like why did we buy that? I don't know. I was playing golf with Billy. We had one too many whiskeys, and before I knew it, I had a signed contract.
Something like that. And, I definitely know of companies that are selling to banks.
Yes, exactly. Right.
That are selling, 6 or 8 banks a year, and they're fairly big contracts. So let's say they're making a handful of millions, and they raise ginormous rounds. But the expectation now is that they've got to go from 2, 3, 4 million to 15, 20, 25 million in a year.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for me to work out whether that is like product market fit or whether that is just message market fit. And kind of winding us back then.
Yes.
From a VC perspective.
Yes.
I love the framework and I love the discipline which it gives to, which sort of this framework of discipline that you're giving to founders. And I wonder how you think about that on the VC side, because VCs are sometimes a little bit, herd mentality, the hot deal here, hot deal there.
Totally. Yeah.
How do you maintain that discipline on the VC side, but make sure that you're getting into these deals when some VCs are not thinking about, the discipline that you bring into this book and are just kind of placing bets all over the place? Like, how do you match those two things up?
Well, I mean, I think when we're pitching our institutional investors that bet on us, they obviously have a lot of questions about our investment philosophy. And some of that philosophy has to adjust to the macro conditions. We invested differently in 2020 than we did in 2022. Like 2020, it was like, we think this is a overheated market. We're going to stay price disciplined, and we think there's a recession coming, and we're going to make sure we invest with a recession future in mind. In 2022, it was like, this is a great time to invest. Everything's crashed. Everyone's like hoarding cash to save their, so there's like a supply and debt. This is a great time to be investing. 2024, now it's kind of like, we kind of feel like AI is in a bit of a bubble, especially in the application layer. So we're going to like go slow and stay price disciplined. And we have some conviction against the consensus on where there are opportunities to find long-term durable ARR. So like there's just things we have to shift with the times. But your point is like, this is a forever methodology of us is we're always going to invest through the science of scaling methodology. I would say where most firms weight ARR growth as their primary measure of the success of a business in the early stage, we weight more heavily the retention of their install base and the leading indicator of that retention. A lot of our companies that we evaluate create their first LIR during our diligence process because they look at it. So yeah, it is an anti-herd mentality for us to think that way. But I think that's important because a key ingredient of creating alpha in a fund strategy is to be confident in the conviction where you're against the consensus. And that's an area where we have it.
Yeah. Yeah. It must be difficult. It must be, it must feel, well, I guess I'll ask you, does it ever feel like you are losing deals to that like herd mentality then? It must be a bit frustrating at times.
Well, it's hard right now, I guess. Yeah. Yes. I suppose it is. I mean, we're fortunate that I don't think we lose a ton of deals, especially in this day of age, because like there's almost like the huge billion-dollar funds that are just trying to find the next trillion-dollar companies that are playing almost in a different game. Mm-hmm. And then there's like the rest of the funds that like us are managing 100 million, which we're looking for deals that can get to $1 billion to $10 billion. And if they exit at $1 billion, we return the entire fund in that deal. And if they exit at $10 billion, we return 10x the money of our investors on that one deal. So it's like the whole point of this is to return capital to our investors. And that's why so many folks are flocking back to the smaller funds, because the fund math makes a little more sense. But at the same time, like, yeah, it's hard in this environment right now. There's tremendous FOMO. It's hard to sit here and be like, yeah, we believe there's a bubble. We believe the people that are paying, that are pricing companies that are $1 million in ARR and pricing them at 170 million. We don't think that's healthy. It's hard to sit that out and to like watch them continue to grow. And
there'll be some, self-selection there, I think, though, of the founders that are interested in taking money from you, because, founders that are interested in pumping up the kind of the marketing side of a company and making a quick buck.
Yeah.
I was just reading about an early stage Series A company that raised a $30 million A and is apparently all fraudulent. I was just reading about that this morning.
Oh my gosh.
It's just that those founders that are more interested in building sustainable businesses, I'm sure there'll be some self-selection there as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, imagine being like a 32-year-old that just made partner at a tier 1 firm. Like, you just want to be in the hot deals at any price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want to brag that you're in Perplexity. Like you're the person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, and then if everyone's wrong, they're going to be wrong together.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the cool thing about it for them. And it's like, it takes discipline, and it's that's just what the game is right now.
It's almost like this book is a guidebook, not only for founders, but also for VCs. One of the things that you talk about a lot, and I guess like the whole point of this data-driven approach to product market fit, is that ARR is less important at the early stages. And given that, how do you think founders should think about pricing in their first handful of deals? Like, if you're not optimizing for price, like, does margin matter at the beginning? How do you think about pricing?
Yeah. So with both those questions, I do have to caveat that, like, for those that are listening, don't think that this is about slowing down or like waiting to scale. I would say half the entrepreneurs I meet scale too early and too fast, and half the entrepreneurs I meet scale too late and too slow. Like, this is about scaling at the optimal speed. Okay. Now, to Tasha's point, like, what should your pricing strategy be during, say, the product market fit phase, where, again, qualitatively, we're just trying to show that we can create value for all the customers we sign up? I don't care about price optimization at that point. Unless I have like the rare startup situation where the entire business innovation is a price optimization. Mm-hmm. Fine, but that's rare. Usually it's a value optimization, and I'm just trying to get 10 people on the friggin' system so I can see how many I can create value for. So what we say at that stage is price for commitment. So the story is usually like, okay, Tosh, thank you so much for taking the time. I might have said, Tosh, you're a banking professional, and I'm actually an entrepreneur that's been researching the compliance issues that many banks are facing in the 2025 era, 2026 era. I was wondering if you had 20 minutes to talk, and I ask you a bunch of questions about it. And then after all those questions, I'll say, Tosh, thank you for being so open. You're like the 27th compliance director that I've spoken to, and everyone's saying the same thing. In fact, we are building what you just talked about, and it will be coming out in June. And we're going to be charging $100,000 a year for this thing. And we're just looking for 5 design partners to team up with us, sign up an LOI today with a small deposit. And in exchange for doing that and being a design partner with us this summer, we'll be giving them a 90% discount for the first year. Beautiful. Reduce friction to get them on the platform, and just price. Free is not good, because they'll just say, yeah, fine, and not do it. So I'm just pricing for commitment.
Is it also then sensible to match that with actually not trying to sign longer terms? Is if you lock in at that early stage on a 2 or 3 year deal, like,
there's no value to it.
Maybe that's what
Very, very little value to it. You know, like I kind of prefer monthly deals. I mean, we can make an argument on some of these other things where it's like, okay, the longer term contracts give us a little bit of buffer in case we have a major bug and then we have time to recover. Fine. So maybe we can make an argument in Cable's case and some of the other like enterprise situations. But in the early term, like I don't mind monthly contracts. I don't want to be hiding behind a Band-Aid. I don't want to be like wondering what's going to happen on the annual renewal. I don't mind it.
That's actually maybe back to our sort of like original discussion, maybe how people selling to banks actually get around this. Like everyone selling to banks, they are looking to sign like 2 to 3 year deals, honestly, like longer than 1 year deals.
Yes.
And maybe the way to figure out if you have product market fit is to not do that.
But I mean, at the same time, like beat it up, Tosh. Like I'm trying to build something super abstract. I've been building something super abstract here. Do you disagree with its application here?
I think that there are some nuances to selling to banks that make like that particular conversation that you just walked through, that little like scenario, tricky. Like no banker is ever handing over money on.
Want to be the design partner?
Like, not so much that, but almost any banker that you can get on a phone call is not the person who will sign the deal, and they actually have to go through a process of getting a committee to approve the purchase. And even if it is 10 grand and therefore sort of, you know, nothing in terms of a monetary outlay, you still have to go through due diligence, which might take 3 to 6 months before they can even give you the 10 grand for the design partnership.
Which the money doesn't even matter. You might as well maximize it. Fair.
Yeah. Like
very fair.
All of those, like, they're like the additional hurdles that when you're selling to banks, like certainly I did not know about, like an interesting, painful addition. So one of the other things that you talk about in the book is the timing window. So you say like, you know, that this concept of the market timing windows will be open or closed. And before starting Cable, I didn't think that timing was as important as I do now. And so I'm interested in how you think about timing. How can you work that out before an investment? What impacts timing?
Wait, are you talking about like macro things that are happening with recessions? Or are you talking about like, what is the timing element?
The timing of like, is this business right for right now? Like
right.
this founder is starting this business.
Yes.
There is, you know, does timing matter?
Yeah, it does matter a lot.
And how do you work that out?
And that's the pull on the other side. That's why I'm saying this isn't about waiting and slowing down. And it's also not about like going too fast and too early. But that's the tension on the other side is like if timing was never an issue, we could just baby step our way. But timing is an issue because we could miss the market. Competition could get ahead of us. So there's that like weird dance. And there's a way to think about this in a quantitative way. And I'm not sure we've established enough of the foundation in the book to like really lay it out. But Tasha's hinted at the fact of like, a way to define your leading indicator attention, which is driving your definition of product market fit and allowing you to then move to the next phase, is let's say like in her case, like if 70% of the banks had set up the product and, you know, were running it within 6 months, okay? That 70% number is what you have to toggle depending on the blitz scale risk that's in your sector. So let me unpack that for a second, right? So like, I'm going to use 2 portfolio companies as an example. We have one company called Arrow Cloud that is bringing software, modern software to airports. This is not AI. Airports are entering the cloud era right now. We are going after 2 very large 1980 probably founded incumbents. These folks sign 5-year contracts. It is a not very competitive space. We don't have like 50 companies raising $100 million around us. That's not under a lot of blitz scale risk. Mm-hmm. So that means, and also like the other element to it is bug tolerance is not very high. It better work, okay? Both of those would cause you to choose a higher percentage. Let's wait until 90% of our customers achieve that before calling success on product market fit. I'd want to do that for a medical device too. On the other side, we have a software company that's competing in the customer support AI space. That has a high blitzscale risk. There are 7 companies that have raised over $100 million. It is a friggin' race. They have to take more risks. So they will choose a lower number in terms of like maybe 50% of our customers. And hopefully we just like can kind of build the plane while we're flying it. Right? So like the context of that, this blitzscale dimension can kind of like dictate the timing luxury that you have. AeroCloud probably has a little more timing, and the customer support AI does not.
Yeah. Interesting. And like also, AeroCloud has probably overall far fewer customers to go after.
Totally.
And so the like fundraising is probably more evenly spread between those
Yes.
3 stages that you talk about. Like you probably need actually a lot of money at product market fit to make sure the technology has no bugs, to make sure that you're having long enough with the team to get to your leading indicator of retention metric that you've set yourself. And then you need some more at the next stages. Whereas
Exactly.
with your customer service product, so many more customers, a little bit of product market fit, so a little bit in the PMF stage, but then a shit ton in the later stage.
Yes. So this is how we can like throttle the framework within our context, but still be quantitatively driven.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. So you talk, this is all about scaling revenue and the risks that come with either not scaling fast enough or scaling too early. Like those are both things that can kill businesses. And as you say at the beginning of the book, 80% of startups fail. So what are the other sciences, as well as the science of scaling, that we need to understand? What else kills businesses? It's surely not 80% die because of this specific problem.
Yeah,
What are the
I
other
know.
problems?
Well, at HBS, there's a lot of research on this across even the whole MBA community. It's people issues. Founder fights, board to founder fights. That's a big one. Oftentimes it's just like the market doesn't work out. Like the methodology doesn't talk about that, but like we're inventing here. Not every invention works. It's not always possible, right? But I forget I do remember having taught the entrepreneurial management curriculum for 6 years or so that the people stuff's a big deal. And I've lived through it.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. I guess my final question is, what of this changes with AI?
Yeah, it still works. There's 4 phases that I believe the impact of go-to-market will move through with AI. The first one is, and I'll unpack the first phase deeply in a second, but it's just like, really just, it removes all the admin time, and just sellers are just selling all the time. I'll come back to that. Phase 2 is AI agents are selling. Phase 3 is the AI agents are buying too, which is cool. And then phase 4 is, I do think the organizational boundaries of finance to product to go to market blur. Those organizational silos are due to human limitations and are suboptimal for an organization. No finance major goes into product, and no product major goes into finance. And they create inefficiencies. And I think we have a potential to break those down as we go to more agentic driven organizations. It gets Star Trek-y, Tosh. I'm sorry.
Let's talk about that.
You want to talk about that one? Oh, gosh.
Well, the thing is, my experience living north of San Francisco, I am like out beyond that. There's this pretend line south of San Rafael in
Right.
Marin County in California.
Right.
And everyone below that is working in tech, and all they talk
Yes.
about is tech. And everyone above
Right.
that doesn't have a fucking clue what AI is.
Right.
And I think that's probably more representative of like the world and less of San Francisco and like
For
probably
sure.
New York. And so if that's true, like you just said, AeroCloud are not competing against AI. They're not even competing against like modern tech. They're competing against like someone who is not yet able to put their technology in the cloud. Like these airports are just starting to use the cloud.
Yep.
It's going to be 50 plus years before an
Sure.
airport has agents that's buying technology.
Totally agree.
And so like most
Maybe.
companies
Maybe on the buyer side. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so like most companies may well not have any agents buying anything for many decades to come. And so like, I don't know, is that right? Maybe
I do put the timeline in there, and it's a big uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of conviction that whatever SF and Silicon Valley is saying, quadruple it. Because they're like, it's just taking, I can point to so many, if we go back to like the articles that were written in 2022, I would say 99.9% of them were way off on the timing on they predicting it sooner.
Yeah.
Because they live in that bubble, right? So just like, but that's just what I'm saying. I don't know if this is a century-long prediction, whatever. But like, let's just go back to something less Star Trek-y and more real. And I already mentioned that I do think the science of scaling work will provide an important blueprint for first principles design of these future models. So you can get like ICP definitions and product market fit and like sales capacity modeling and forecast modeling all correct based on first principles. I will also say that in this first phase, which is much more tangible, the way that I'm going to measure whether a sales team and a go-to-market organization has become AI native, AI 1.0 native by the end of this year will be through three things. Number one, selling time, which in the industry is measured as the percentage of a week that a rep is talking to a buyer, prospect, or customer. That has historically been 25 to 30%, which is shocking. AI can drive that to 75%. And which is cool because it's not out of the question that everything else could be held equal. The skill of the rep, the quality of the pipeline, the quality of the product. And if all you do is change selling time from 25% to 75%, you triple that rep's productivity, which is cool. So that's the first metric. The second metric is I do think we can significantly improve the average salesperson to manager ratio. Historically, that's been around 7-1. It differs by outside versus inside sales, but let's call it 7-1. I think for AI native companies, they can double that to 15 salespeople to one manager because AI can do a lot of what we put on the manager's plate today. And the final one, which is kind of an output of those two, is the productivity per rep of your salespeople will double. So if you had a rep that's been around for 3 years and quarter after quarter after quarter, they produce 250K of ARR, they will start producing 500K. Those are my three metrics.
So interesting that if one of the main other reasons why startups fail is people-related issues, we think that a computer can double our management capacity though, right? Like, it's not just, I don't think, co-founder relationships or like founder board relationships. I think it's also like quality of people hired and ability to retain people and management.
Yes.
And like, it's hard for people to do that well. Like there are actually quite few people that can manage really well. Like probably most people are terrible managers.
Terrible managers.
Then
most
there's a lot of people who are like average managers. Then there's like a handful of people that are good managers.
Yeah.
And given AI literally by its definition defaults to like this mean, why would AI managing enable somebody to successfully manage double the quantity of people?
I don't know how it applies to other functions, but I can double click into what a sales manager does. They hire the sellers, which I still think that will largely stay. AI has a potential there, but I'm not even talking about that. They ramp coach them and coach them on a continual basis for years. Everyone can be coached. I mean, like LeBron James gets coached, and then they hold them accountable to the process. It's those last two that has tremendous potential. We have like an investment in this company called Letter AI that's doing very well. And so what they do is when a rep books a meeting, Letter AI replicates a buyer agent of that prospect that the rep can practice with the night before, which would any rep would want to do with their manager if the manager has time, but the manager doesn't have time to practice the night before every meeting with every rep. But you can start to see how AI could do that. And then the agent letter AI attends the meeting and coaches the rep in real time as the prospect discloses information about their context. Again, this is what managers do. From time to time, they shadow a rep on a meeting, and using chat or Slack will coach them in real time, but they can't do that in every meeting. And then after the meeting, what managers will have to do is they have to do like twice a week pipeline reviews to like review the findings of like Medic and like the champion and like make sure the forecast is right. AI will just do that. Mm-hmm. It's just go do your work. We'll take care of the forecast. And if you want to debate it, we can look at the algorithm. So like that's where most of the work is today, at least in sales management. And I think today's AI can do a better job of that. The hiring, let's stick with it.
Yeah.
The motivation, the relationship, great. But that's the stuff that I think we can push to a 15-1.
That's interesting. Thank you for explaining that. And on your first one as well of, getting the reps doing productive work a greater percentage of the time. So, 25, 30% of their time normally being spent actually selling can be increased to 75%. Presumably that's through like lead generation, AI outreach, setting up meetings, that sort of thing. Is that what you're talking about?
That's part of it, but a lot of it's just the admin work too.
Okay.
So the outreach is I do think that there'll probably in the next 5 years be a main winner that sets the meeting in AI. And there'll probably be a main platform winner that like helps them do meeting all the way through to like customer and retention. For some reason, I have to figure out, it just feels like two different platforms to me. But there's potential on both. And we're already seeing massive headwinds or tailwinds there. I probably see more tailwinds on just getting rid of the admin work.
Yeah.
Like just like they'd spend 2 hours researching a customer and a company and a prospect that can be done in 2 minutes today. This is one example.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The thing that I just come back to again is in banking and in AeroCloud's world of airports as well, there is just a list, and it's not that long, of a few thousand banks that you can sell to, and actually getting them to reply to your email is not the problem.
Yes.
And so that's a place where I don't know that AI can
the last place,
change.
maybe never.
Yeah.
Like I'm starting to I've done a lot of thinking about where humans permanently exist in a post-AI era from a labor standpoint. I have tremendous conviction on politician, right?
Yeah.
Do you want an AI president? In the long term, I'm not sure we should have AI be our politicians. I do think creative field will exist. I think if Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran went head to head with AI 10 years from now, I think they'll still produce a lot of songs that people will like more than the AI driven ones. And same with writing and movies and all that kind of stuff. And I also think like there will be areas where you'll want a human escalation path. If I'm having brain surgery, I'm fine with the AI doing the surgery. I just want a friggin' neurologist in the room. And if I'm buying $2 million or $20 million banking software, I'm fine having my AI agent do the analysis to buy from the AI seller. But I just want to shake a human's hand to know that this is a good purchase. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you, Tosh.
Yeah, interesting. Well, lots to figure out over the coming years. What have we not talked about, Mark? What is the one thing that we have not?
No, it was great, Tosh. The percentage of unique questions, having done 50 of these in the last 2 months, is like extraordinarily high. So great job on your interview.
That was the goal. Well,
yeah, it was fun. I loved it.
This has been awesome. Everyone go buy a copy of Mark's book, The Science of Scaling.
I think the last thing, Tosh, if it's okay, more social.
Do it.
I bring students to Silicon Valley every January for a week, HBS students. And we get like great access to all these, like president of NVIDIA, OpenAI. I think there's a concern that there's 100x more talent, capital, resources being put into building AI than understand the implications for society. I agree with it. So we have to, as technicians, like really absorb that and do something about it. I don't know what I'm going to do in the long term, but in the short term, that's why partially why I'm giving the proceeds of the book to mental health. We just have to take care of society along the way. The other reason is I've been a patient of mental health, a serious patient. I've also been a caregiver. I hope we can continue to improve the stigma associated with that. And I'm happy to continue to like help with that. And I also just like hope that others can find ways to diversify their building time with their reflection and helping with the societal absorption of this new era as well. That's the last thing I'll say.
It sounds like you do not agree with one of your namesakes who believes in zero introspection.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, I'm glad to hear it. I I would we need to have another hour to talk about all of what you just talked about
Oh,
and my
love
thoughts
that.
on universal basic income and why it's a absolute farce. So I'd love
It
to
is
talk
a
about all of
farce
that.
because we don't care. We don't have like, it's not a fixed number on what we're trying to get to. We're just trying to, because of our wiring, trying to be better than our neighbors. And that's why UBI fails. But yes, we need to grab a coffee and talk about this on the air.
No one has done it so far, so why on earth will anyone do it in the future?
Yes.
Exactly. Mark, this is awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Everyone buy a copy of The Science of Scaling. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and share it with all of your friends. And I will see you next week for another episode of In Control.